Hi. Are you able to see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ma'am, can you show me the last slides that we have?
Sure. Is that fine?
And one more, the 36th slide,
36th.
36.
Okay, I am not screen sharing those.
Okay, got it,
Those
got
are
it, got it.
hidden. Those are hidden.
Sure, ma'am. Sure.
Okay.
Tahira ma'am, I think we should start now. Meanwhile, others can join, and the recording is still going to be there. I'm just afraid we should be falling short of time at the end of it.
Sure. Let's go ahead.
Okay. Okay, so right now we have Bhavna and Shashwat with us. So,
Okay.
hello and welcome everyone to our webinar. First of all, I'd like to introduce myself. I am Srishti Khara, teaching assistant at BSc Mental Health Program, Symbiosis Institute of Health Sciences. And our very own speaker, I'd like to introduce her. So with us today as a speaker, we have Tahira Lokhandwala ma'am. She is the senior psychologist of Symbiosis Center of Emotional Wellbeing. And she began her tenure with SKU as a psychological counselor since its launch in 2018. She has been instrumental in supporting the growth and expansion of SKU, its various curative, preventive, and promotive mental health interventions, programs, and academic courses. She also serves as faculty for the BSc in Mental Health 4-year undergraduate degree program, with a key focus on psychological, socio-cultural determinants of mental health advocacy, and community mental health. I will not be introducing the webinar right now. I would like to hand it over to Tahira ma'am and maybe take it ahead. Ma'am, over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Shrishti, for that lovely introduction. So, welcome everyone, Shashwat, and who else do we have? Bhavna, right? So, I'm going to quickly screen share. I'm sure that you have questions around mental health, so I will just get to it. Okay, let me know if you're able to see the slides. Hold
Yes,
on
ma'am.
a second. So today we're going to take a little bit of time to understand careers in mental health, to understand a little bit about what it is. I understand that some of the people who've joined today are either in 10th, 11th, or 12th grade. And I'm sure that this time is, while it's stressful in terms of preparing for board exams, I'm sure that the uncertainty of the future also might be playing on your mind in terms of figuring out career paths and making important decisions with regards to the courses you want to pursue. So let's hope that maybe this 1 hour we'll get to know a little bit about the domain of psychology and mental health. And given that I would take it that you've joined this webinar because you're interested in this subject matter, and hopefully we can bring some clarity if you have any questions around this particular choice of study. So, like I was saying, choosing the right career is going to be very tricky. I know that you have a wealth of opportunities that you get to choose from, which is very different from, say, a couple of decades ago, where the domain of the career paths that people generally pursued were medicine and law and engineering, but clearly we have many other avenues that we can pursue other than those. While those are great courses too, we also have journalism, we have teaching, animation, IT, media, content marketing, and many others. There's culinary, there's hotel management. So I can deeply empathize with all of you who joined about questions around careers and what to choose from all the different kinds of opportunities and courses available to us today. And so it will be very understandable if you have a lot of questions in your mind about this, right? But let's begin by understanding a little bit about how not to choose a career, right? So I'm sure that there's a lot of pressure, peer influence. There would be parental expectations, there'll be gender stereotyping also. Oh, girls take certain subjects, boys take other subjects. Financial pressures might also factor into your choices when it comes to career, and also popularity of the course. If there's a lot of fame and prestige associated to it, those all of those things might influence your decision when it comes to choosing a career path. Again, there's nothing wrong with any of these. You're more than welcome to choose something if you feel like it is fulfilling a certain kind of motivation or expectation. And so there's nothing wrong with this at all. It is okay to be extrinsically motivated from time to time. So extrinsic motivation is when we do things based on things outside of us. For example, we're motivated to get grades because we'll get validated, or we'll get a certain salary or certain kind of reputation by doing a certain course. All of those things are outside of us. And again, like I said, there's nothing wrong with pursuing those things. You're more than welcome to pursue a life that's full of abundance in certain ways. But the idea is for us to truly be happy and have long term sustainable success. We want to base our decisions based on intrinsic motivation. So intrinsic motivation is what is it that we're passionate about, what is it that inspires us, what makes us excited when we think about that particular course, that particular avenue. Because think about it, when you are doing something for hours on end, whether it's pursuing studies or working in that domain, you to remain sustainable, to dedicate hours to that practice requires deep passion for the subject, because that is the one thing that will sustain you over the long term. The question is, what would you do if no one was watching or no one was paying you for that? And that's the answer. The answer you get to that will guide you in terms of choosing a career path. Okay, so that brings us to the subject. Okay, though, so it is passion, and also it can also be your aptitude and your interest, your personality, all of these factor in when it comes to making a career decision. Okay, so you might have, while you might have passion, and that's excellent to have passion about a certain subject, you also might want to have the personality and aptitude for it. Do you have the innate skill sets that are required for this particular domain? So for example, design students might want to have a sense of creativity, or when it comes to science or or engineering, you might want to be more inclined towards maths. So all of these things factor into your decision making. So if you have any questions around your aptitude, many career counselors give aptitude tests, provide aptitude tests and personality tests to help you kind of get a sense of where you lie on those domains, to give you more clarity. So when all of these combine, your aptitude, your interest and your passion, and if you direct that into the right opportunity, there's no choice but for success to prevail over time. Okay, long term. Sorry, did I get disconnected? I'll just reconnect to this PPT. Are you all able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay. So these are the things that are important when making a decision. Of course, if you feel like you don't have certain innate skills, there's always scope to cultivate them. So with practice and with dedication, you can definitely cultivate some of these skills. But if you have any questions around that, Google is your best friend. Make sure you research, make sure you ask questions, make sure you meet experts in the field and do internships or volunteering to give you a little bit more idea of what to do when you're choosing your subjects. So if you have the questions, are you fascinated by why people behave differently? Do you enjoy solving problems related to understanding others' thoughts, feelings, and actions? Do you notice how emotions and mental health impact others? Have you wondered how psychological factors affect success in work, school, or communities? Do you reflect on how your own thoughts and emotions shape your decisions? So, if you have all these questions, it means that you're inclined towards understanding the human mind, understanding human behavior, and if you've grown up observing human dynamics, interactions between people, and you have questions around that, it might indicate that you have certain interests in psychology. And the beauty about psychology as a subject is that it can be applied anywhere, because wherever there's human beings, that's where psychology needs to be explored, whether it's in a company or school or education setting. There's a huge scope when it comes to this subject. Okay, the next question you want to ask yourself is, what traits do you have that make you an appropriate fit to for the field of mental health? Okay, so if you're empathetic and compassionate, you understand why people feel the way they do, you're able to put yourself in their shoes, understand their motivations. If you have strong communication and active listening skills, you're able to ask the right questions, ask people, get a sense of what people are feeling. You're able to empathetically listen without interruption, and really get a sense of what people are saying behind their sentences, how they're feeling, and not just in terms of what they're saying, but what their non-verbal cues are. Those are also strong indications that you have the skills to be a mental health professional. Emotional stability and resilience is also very important. So this work requires, of course, you as a counselor or a mental health therapist, to be able to cope with your own emotions. And of course, there'll be days when you might struggle with it, and that's why it's important to have good self-care and the right people that you can connect to. But to be able to hold space for others, we also need to know how to walk the talk and demonstrate that capacity of emotional regulation and resilience as well. Critical thinking, problem solving is also important. Being able to think out of the box, make connections between situations, between what people say, and find solutions to certain challenges as well at times. Ethical integrity and confidentiality is very important. Being able to conduct yourself with ethics, with keeping in mind ethics and integrity, and adapting to situations and staying open minded. If we come from a place of judgment, then we may not be good mental health professionals. So we always say in sessions that this is a space free of judgment and a safe space for you to share what you're thinking and feeling. So any judgments we have, any stereotypes we that you might be carrying, is something you need to be very conscious of and very mindful of, before embarking on this journey. So why mental health? That's the big. So we talked a little bit about your own, the traits that you would ideally want to possess, if you were to embark on this journey. But I also want to give you a sense of what are the challenges out there within this field itself, right? So there's a little bit of statistics for you over here. So, within our country and also globally, there's a huge lack of mental health professionals. There are only 0.56 qualified mental health professionals per 100,000 people population, right? And there's an estimate of 20% of Indians who suffer from some kind of mental health challenge. India also, within our country, there are about 56 million Indians who suffer from depression, and the suicide rate globally is almost 36.5%, right? So and then also there's a global indication of 1.03 trillion, when we are talking about losses, economic losses due to mental health. That's the number that's been quoted by the WHO. So clearly, this gives you a real snapshot of the challenges here, and which is why there's a huge need, a call for mental health professionals out there. We need to have people come on board. We need young people like you who are passionate about psychology, who are thinking about this subject in some shape or form, to understand that you are really filling the gap in terms of need versus supply, in terms of the availability of trained mental health professionals, and that there is a calling, that's there, that we need empathetic and well trained mental health professionals who can offer support and offer their services to those in need. So if you are passionate about contributing to this cause, then this is the path for you. Okay, so mental health is the future of the healthcare industry. This is something our founder and president, Dr. S.B. Mujumdar sir, has been quoted saying, and he also emphasizes that healthcare, while traditionally it has been focused on physical health, it's not limited to physical health only. It needs for holistic intervention. It needs to encompass both physical and mental health as well, because the two intertwine, the two influence each other, and it is a combination of the two that actually determines the quality of life. So this is why it's very important to stress on mental health, and which is why we need professionals in this industry. So let's talk a little bit about mental health as a career. And I'm sure you must be having questions. Okay, I'm interested in psychology, I'm interested in mental health. But where do I begin? What do I focus on? Where do I start? How do I go about this? So let's deep dive into a little bit about the different branches when it comes to psychology. Okay, so as you can see here, there are a couple of them listed out, but of course, it's not limited to just this list. There are many other branches within the domains of psychology that can be explored, but these are the traditional and most popular ones that are available in terms of formal education, right? So we have clinical psychology, which is also something that many universities offer. And here you'll get trained in diagnosis, in treatment, in therapy. And it really is an opportunity to skill yourself in the area of clinical psychology and curative therapeutic interventions. If you are looking to become a clinical psychologist, you want to work in a clinical setup or in a private setup where you are supporting people in an individual one-on-one setting or family setting, then this is the choice for you. Educational psychology also is for those who are interested, specifically for those who want to work in a school domain. So development psychology and educational also can, generally people do go into the domains of school, working with young children or young adults, and working on interventions in those domains. So, especially when it comes to autism and learning disability, especially when many of those go undiagnosed, and the challenges it causes for young people is immense. So, having the right kind of mental health professional in these settings is really important, so that young children feel supported and that early intervention takes place. So, we're not waiting till they're adults for any kind of treatment to take place, but actually that happens early on when there's more scope for intervention and more scope for lasting impact. Um, Sports psychology is another domain. So if you're interested in sports and working with athletes, or just generally because it can be a high stress environment, we're working on anxiety and working on performance. And so a sports psychologist has a deal of scope in this domain as well. Organizational psychology are for those, and we use industrial psychology and organizational psychology interchangeably, but this is for those who want to work in a corporate setting or in companies, work parallelly with HR or go into HR themselves, or work on work culture spaces, helping employees manage their stress, building leadership, competent leadership within organizations. So all of these things are things that organizational psychologists work on. And it's a very interesting domain as well, because I think in workspaces psychologists are definitely required in terms of building healthy spaces, because we all spend long hours in the workspace, and having the right kind of professionals available can go a long way in terms of making people feel supported. Okay, so forensic psychology are for those who are interested in sort of criminal psychology, although they might be different. But if you're interested in and this can also run parallelly with law. So if you're looking to also pursue law degrees, this would be an interesting domain to pursue in terms of when it comes to crimes. What is the psychology behind that? What is it that led to these situations in terms of analysis as well, and also interventions in this domain as well. So, forensic and criminal psychology are also domains that are picking up across globally as well. Of course, finding courses that offer training in this are limited, but nonetheless, those who do pursue it are very passionate about the subject. Neuropsychology also, if you're looking to understand the way the mind works and the biological aspect of it as well, then that's the domain for you. And that's also a very specialized field, but nonetheless extremely interesting, because you get to really understand the relationship between mind and body, and how the mind works, the brain works, which is very interesting. And of course, so there's health psychology. So for those who want to work closely in the health industry with, and in terms of not only in just limited to that, but also at a macro lens, working on interventions, working on aspects of health when it comes to building interventions within those spaces, but also working with doctors, working with patients, working in the healthcare industry to support the kind of interventions that take place there. Also, when it comes to social psychology, which is also in my expertise, and social psychology is a very interesting subject, something that is very much popular also abroad, more so here than here. But the way it works is basically, while clinical psychology focuses on the individual and from a diagnostics lens, social psychology kind of understands a person holistically in terms of understanding how cultural, social, political, economic, community factors all play into the person, how the individual affects society, how society affects the individual, and really training you in understanding how to create interventions at a macro lens. So, for example, clinical psychology, you may be working with the person one on one, which is incredibly important. Diagnosis is very important. So, so you know what kind of treatment plan to create for that person. But social psychology, if you want to work with large groups of people in terms of building awareness programs, or in terms of destigmatization, then there's a lot of scope in terms of community interventions if you're studying social psychology. Okay, so if you have, I'm sure you have a lot of questions. So maybe we'll take questions at the end of the session, but feel free to keep a note of those questions that you have. Okay. So key roles in mental health. There are many avenues if you choose to pursue this subject. It is very versatile, which is also what makes it an incredibly interesting course to pursue. You can become a psychologist, go into therapy, research, and diagnostics. You can work with psychiatrists. So you don't become a psychiatrist if you pursue psychology. Those are very different, different specialities. but you get to work with a psychiatrist who's offering medication. So you often find that that kind of holistic intervention can do wonders in terms of supporting individuals. So that is also there. You can become a counselor, you can offer guidance, you can also do workshops and activities of different kinds. If not in a clinical setting, you can create programs that help aid in building tools when it comes to emotional health. You can also become work in you can also explore social work or work with social workers as well at a grassroots level, working in marginalized communities or communities with lower socioeconomic or any kind of sort of challenges. You can also work in with specific populations, right? So whether it's farmers or mothers or young adults or children. So there's a lot of scope to work with specific populations, targeting their needs and helping them cope with any of the challenges that they're facing. You can become a researcher, which is again a big domain here, especially in symbiosis as well. We do encourage research, so that you are able to kind of identify cause and effect and see how certain interventions affect and impact, what is the impact of those in a clinical setting or otherwise as well. And there are other roles as well. You can become a peer supporter, an advocate, or you can also go into the specialities, so art therapy for example, and I'll talk a little bit about those other therapeutic modalities like expressive art. Okay, so where do psychologists or mental health professionals go? And again, it's not limited to this list only. There is private practices, so you can start your own setup. You can work in a hospital or a clinic. You can work in a school or a university in the way that Shrishti and I are working in a university setup. You can work in communities and NGOs, or you can work in research institutions as well. Okay, so I will also kind of demonstrate what it looks like, what these different spaces look like for mental health professionals, right? So let me start off by saying, so these are the different spaces within Symbiosis. So I just want to use Symbiosis spaces as an as a standard, as a sort of a visual of what the spaces are within this domain of mental health. Okay, so for example, we have the Child Learning and Development Center, where we have occupational therapy rooms and play therapy rooms. So I think I'll just make that quick change. So we have occupational therapy rooms, play therapy rooms, and here young children meet their counselor, meet their psychologist, their clinical psychologist, and they're able to pursue different therapeutic interventions within the space. There's remedial learning, and there's other kinds of approaches within the space. So if you're interested in working with children, this is very much there are such avenues if you are looking to pursue this particular branch of psychology. Another area is community mental health and mental health advocacy. So these are the two courses that I teach at the BSc in mental health. So you can see some of my students here. We had gone and worked in a community setup where we did some awareness programs in orphanages and in schools that were disadvantaged in terms of socioeconomic standing. And the students, what they did is they created programs and they created workshops and a few activities around emotional health. So, helping the children learn about the different tools when it comes to working on your emotional health, building empathy, communication, conflict management, self awareness, emotion regulation, all the key domains that go into building your EQ. And EQ, as we all know, is the real marker of success. A lot of times people talk about IQ, but very little is said on about EQ. And there's a saying that IQ gets you in the door, but EQ is what keeps you there. And so, building EQ, building your emotional intelligence, is incredibly important in building lifelong for lifelong success. So, we talked to them a little bit about resilience and through fun and interactive ways. And through this process, not only are we connecting with the community, bringing the subject of mental health to the community, but we're also advocating, we're destigmatizing, we're building awareness. So when it comes to community mental health, there's a lot of scope as well if that is something you're looking to pursue. There's a lot of promotion and prevention as well. So while clinical counseling is that one domain where if you want to work on a one-on-one setup, that's also fine. But there's also a lot of work in terms of awareness programs. So for example, we have a peer support program where where we take on board students who want to advocate for mental health, advocate, and some of them have their own experiences when it comes to mental health. So they speak from a space of lived experience. So that just adds, that enriches the discussion, because then they're also endorsing and advocating for counseling, advocating that people should go and reach a counselor if they're in need, right? When we're not well, we go to a doctor, or if you want to exercise, you go to the gym. But where do you go for your emotional health? And so we want to kind of advocate that it's okay to go and reach people who will be able to support you through those challenges. So as you can see here, that we've had peer support groups, you've had support groups of different kind, talking about different subjects that are important to the youth population, whether that's anxiety, whether that's homesickness, whether that's fear of missing out, whether that's building self esteem. We also have health and wellness courses where we talk about these subjects. And then we also have fun activities every month where we again encourage dialogue in these domains. So you can see that a psychologist's role is very diverse, and there's scope to do these different things in this different setting. I also want to stress on expressive therapies, so expressive art therapies, basically. So this is also a very strongly growing field, as it should be, because it is a very effective form of intervention. And that if you're interested in these eclectic approaches, you can very much choose to specialize in any of these post your bachelor's or master's, and continue your journey as a mental health professional. So there's art therapy, where we use art as a mode of expression, but also as a way, a mindful activity as well. So art is also especially used for individuals who find talk therapy difficult, or if they find that hard to express themselves in that domain. Art therapy can very much be used as a tool to get a sense of what the person is feeling, what they're going through. Dance movement is also a great form of expression. So you can use dance and movement as a way to heal and to express yourself as well. Drum circles, also another great example of the expressive therapies. And animal assisted therapy. So if you see the two dogs here, there are campus dogs, and they're trained to offer support to the students, and they also bring a lot of comfort, especially for those who are feeling homesick or uh, going through any kind of challenges. So, expressive art is another domain if you want to explore that as an avenue. Okay, are we all good so far? Give me a thumbs up if we're okay. We're doing okay. Yeah, Shashwat, Shrishti, Bhavna. Okay, super. Okay, so choosing psychology as a career. So first of all, it's important to follow your passion, as I mentioned earlier. So if you're getting a trying to get a sense of how to go about this, the first step is to know what is it that you're passionate about. Are you passionate about helping people? I Do you have an interest in supporting people, in exploring themselves, getting to know themselves? Maybe you have had your own experiences when it comes to this domain, or when it comes to psychology or mental health. And of course you can channel that understanding into formal study, so that you're able to offer support to others. It's important to explore career paths, so it might be tricky to choose between these different branches because each one is so interesting. The best way to go about it is to read, to go and talk to professionals in these different fields, and also do a lot of internships and volunteering. I think that will also give a lot of clarity into what suits you. Maybe some people might feel more comfortable working in an HR or organizational setting, while another person might be more comfortable working in a community setup. So there's no right or wrong here. You should choose what's right for you. And then of course, what are the steps you need to take? So of course you need to start with the bachelor's, and then move on to a master's to be able to practice after your master's. But interpersonal skills are important. So developing empathy, communication, those are key if you want to be an effective mental health professional. And like I said, volunteer, intern, so that you can really develop those skills, and then from there you can plan ahead. Okay, so the big question, as our webinar title suggests, that we're turning passion into profession. So take time to reflect, ask questions, network with professionals and organizations, attend certificate courses. You'll also find a lot of courses online that you can pursue. That will also answer a lot of your questions of what is your interest area and the domain you want to specialize in. And then later on, you can also then decide if you want to specialize in certain key training areas like CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy, or dialectical behavioral therapy, or trauma therapy. So even within therapeutic approaches, there are many different approaches, and it's always good to be trained in as many, so that when you're meeting a client or a person in need, you have the right tools to be able to offer them the pathways for healing. Okay, now of course, some of the there are, I would say, more rewards than there are challenges, but we also talk about burnout. So it's important to have healthy self care practices in place so that you're able to care for yourself when you're supporting others. Remember that there's a saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. So it's always important for you to be able to fill your cup with great self care practices, whether that's painting or dancing or listening to music or talking to friends or journaling. Have your emotional toolbox in place. But of course, the rewards are immense. There's deep satisfaction in being able to provide the right kind of intervention to the right person, their family. It goes a long way in improving the quality of their life and building thriving environments. You're not only are you impacting the individual, but it has a ripple effect on people and then their community, their families, and then communities at large. And there's great deal of fulfillment that comes with this role as well. Okay, so I want to go a little bit into some nuances between the fields. Now, of course, it's okay if you have any sort of questions around this. I mean, I think in time and with your own research, you'll be able to kind of get a sense of the differences. But I thought I'll just quickly touch base on this. So, you'll often hear us use psychology, mental health, and behavioral science interchangeably. So, traditionally, we had courses in our educational setup, we had courses in psychology, but then that later evolved to mental health and now behavioral science. And why that is because there's an understanding that psychology as a domain should not be just limited, it should not be working in a silo. It is interconnected with many other subjects as well, like law, anthropology, sociology, policy, public health. All of these domains they all intersect, and that's why having multidisciplinary approaches when it comes to the subject is really important. So behavioral science kind of encompasses that entire it gives a snapshot, it encompasses that entire multidisciplinary approach, and then it gives us more scope to find connections between these different domains. And then it also enriches our study and it enriches research and helps us ask questions about the subject in a more holistic way. So we're not limiting our understanding of psychology, rather, we are understanding how psychology and physical health intertwine. What is the mind body connection? How do we take our learning up from beyond the classroom to also apply it to a community setting? So all of these are really really important for us to really understand that we are transitioning out from psychology itself and looking at it at a more behavioral health lens. Okay, but again, there's nothing wrong with just also pursuing psychology as it is, but I just wanted to kind of give you a sense of why these words are used interchangeably. Okay, so Shrishti, I mean, I can segue into talking a little bit about our program. Are we all good so far?
Yes, ma'am, sure, you can do that.
Okay. So I'll just quickly end this webinar with a few details about our course. So since we're talking about mental health, it would only be appropriate for us to talk about the course that we curated. So Shrishti, myself, and our team of psychologists and counselors here at also Symbiosis Center for Emotional Wellbeing, were headed by Dr. Girija Mahale, who's a psychiatrist. We all work in real life settings with students and clients, and we realize that there is this gap, and it's important for us to train young people to become mental health professionals themselves, but also have that holistic learning so that they understand. So you have the material needed to really understand psychology holistically, with those intersections with different subjects, right? So that's where we curated the BSc in mental health, which is was initially a 3 year degree. It's now a 4 year degree course in line with the national education policy, and it is under the Symbiosis Institute of Health Sciences at Lovely. So we launched just a very few years ago. We're into our third year now, our third batch of students. And 3 years ago, we inaugurated the program with our founder, Dr. S.B. Mujamdar sir, and we had our chief guest and guest of honor, both of whom are veterans in their field. So one of the great things about this course is you'll get to see different people, meet different people, different veterans from the field as well. And of course Dr. Girija. So what is it that's different about this course? And also, it's likely that we are going to be changing the BSc mental health into BSc behavioral science, behavioral health, to encompass what it is that we're looking to achieve with this. So there's practical learning, research, it's skill based, there's observership and internships, but it's heavily based on experiential learning. So we take our students to view psychiatric to the psychiatric wards, to view interventions there. We take them to communities. We take them to different setups so that they get to learn about this subject. So, as I mentioned, that it is aligned with the national education policy. It is multidisciplinary and it is a good combination of theory and practice. So, you'll get a lot of practical exposure as well, and very highly research driven. So, if you have a subject domain that you're interested in, you have questions around that, you are inquisitive and you want to find answers, then research is definitely the pathway for you. So we collaborate, we have different departments that we are connected to. We have the psychiatric department at the hospital at Lovely campus. We have the child learning and development center, which I just showed you, the geriatric center, counseling centers as well. And you can always, if you're looking to explore and build your skills, and that's the way to go. It's a, like I said, it's a 4 year program, and admission processes will be available on the website. I know that Shrishti has also added some details in the chat box, so you're welcome to also explore that. So the campus is at Lovely. It is also NAC accredited, and so Lovely in Pune. For all those who may not know where Lovely is, and if you have any questions about application, there's an online registration for the program. And I think Shrishti will kind of guide you as to if there are any changes to this application process. But she will be your go-to if you have any questions on this. Like I said, there's an ecosystem. So we have SKU, the Symbiosis Center for Emotional Wellbeing, which is a center that was created for students. And its vision was to create a thriving and compassionate community and destigmatize mental illness. We also work closely with the Symbiosis Medical College for Women, Psychiatric Department, outreach, community outreach, which is also our students do a lot of different kinds of interventions in the community as well. And then, of course, the Child Learning and Development Center. So, like I said, all of these are the domains you could pursue if you're interested in pursuing this subject. And we will include the website details over here. So, Shrishti will also add that here if you have any more questions. And I will close here. Okay, so I hope I hope it was not too rushed, but I hope that gave you enough insight into the different careers in mental health. Are we all good so far? I think we have Shashwat here, right? Shashwat, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Shashwat, would you mind sharing which school you're in?
Yeah, Symbiosis Secondary School, Prabhat Road.
Okay, okay. And I take it that you're interested in pursuing psychology?
Yeah, I wanted to explore this field and just wanted details about it.
Okay. Do you feel like you were able to get a kind of a good overview of careers in mental health? And do you have any questions you'd like to ask?
No, ma'am. It's fine.
Okay. I hope that this gave a little bit more insight into the subject. Of course, it is an overview, and if you want to go deeper into the subject, you're welcome to reach out. But I wish you all the best. Do you want to share your motivations or why you want to pursue this course, or why you're thinking about psychology as a course to pursue?
Not something, but I was just wanted to know the details about this and explore
Yeah.
the career. That's all.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, Shasha, thank you for joining in. And
Yes, ma'am.
so, if there are no more questions, then I think we're good to close, Shrishti. And anything else we should cover?
I think you have pretty covered everything, ma'am, and I would really like to express my gratitude and thank you for conducting this webinar. It was indeed an honor to see you with loads of experience. I literally went back to my days when I was a student, and I literally wish at that time I could have something like this. So it was wonderful to have you as a speaker, and I think you have covered all the aspects that we wanted our students and participants to understand. And I think Shashwat has got a really good idea about it. He can anytime reach back. As I've already mentioned the details in the chat box, you can anytime access it or maybe take a screenshot of it will help you. And I think with this, we can close our webinar. But I would just request Shashwat once to, on his camera, maybe ma'am, you can stop sharing the screen and we can have one picture as a memory of this webinar. Can you just switch on your camera, Shashwat?
Wait, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shashwat, for staying on also. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure.
Hi.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thank
joining,
you.
Shashwat. Thank you, Taira ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.